Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the 23rd World Education Summit, the Higher Education Edition. And now we are on the last panel discussion for the day, and the panel topic today is Education and Training for Integrated Urban and Rural Development, Stepping Stones for Curriculum Development and Skill Enhancement. I am Tarannu Manjul, the Assistant Editor at Elets Technomedia, and with me I have Professor Dr. Chatar Singh, Vice Chancellor, Rai Technology University, Bangalore, Karnataka. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
I have Professor O.R.S. Rao, Vice Chancellor, ICFAI University, Ranchi, Jharkhand. Welcome, sir. I have with me Dr. Raman Kumar Jha, Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Ranchi, Jharkhand. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I have with me Professor K.P. Isaac, Director General, XIME Group of Institutions, Bangalore, Karnataka. Welcome, sir. And I have with me Dr. K.N. Subramania, Principal, RV College of Engineering, Bangalore, Karnataka. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We have one more panelist who will be joining us in between, but not taking much time. I would like to start off with Professor O.R.S. Rao. Professor Rao, how can skill development, in your opinion, how can skill development be instrumental in inclusive and sustainable development?
Uh, Very good afternoon to all the panelists and also good afternoon to all the participants in today's discussion. At the outset, I would like to thank the elect and to give us an opportunity to be part of this panel discussion. It's a very interesting topic. Uh, In order to have any inclusive development, it is important that uh, all the people that are in the working age group, they must have a job on hand living in them. Whether they are in cities, they are in the urban, they are in the rural areas. Today, there is a big divide between the metro, urban, and the rural areas, either in terms of the income levels or the job opportunities. Because of this, we see a migration of people going from the rural areas going into the urban and metros. Very recently, the COVID-19 has shown us the magnitude of the problem, whereby particularly, like in fact, out of the panelists, three, four of us are from Bihar, Jharkhand. We have seen a lot of people from our Bihar, Jharkhand, they had to go to other places and, during the COVID pandemic, they had to come back. And then we have seen the magnitude of the problem. And a lot of them, they lost their jobs, they didn't have a livelihood into that. So, in order to correct this, to bridge this, I think it is important that yes, we need to have jobs for all of them. And at the same time, today what is happening is, on one hand, like the India is producing so many graduates, and out of the graduates, hardly only 20% of them are employable. And the rest of them, yes, we have got the problem of educated unemployment. At the same time, as per the various studies, over 53% of the employers they find that they are unable to find the suitable candidates. More than they interview for 100 people, they find only very few are job worthy into that. That's where on one hand jobs are there, and on the other hand there is a sort of people without jobs. And this problem will accentuate a lot more. Now the economy is on the upswing. In the last 21, 22, the FDI has gone up. Lot more jobs are coming up, but at the same time, having people, that are job ready is less. That's where I think, matching this, these skills. See, skill gap matching becomes, very, very imperative at this point of time. It's in this context, I believe that, today's discussion is very, very pertinent into that. So,
Totally agree with your words, sir. And in fact, it was very interesting on how you opened up the discussion. Now, going over to Dr. Raman Kumar Jha. Dr. Jha, what are what according to you are the five key factors that dominate the curriculum development for skill enhancement?
Okay, thank you for the invitation and being making me a part of a great set of people where I can put in my ideas. Now, curriculum development for skill enhancement is altogether uh, an area which is wherein a quality framework has already been framed by the government of India. However, I would put it possibly in a different perspective. The way I look at it, there's some skill which is very commonly to be utilized or used by everyone. So there are some common set of or skill sets which need to be integrated with the normal curriculum, whatever he or she is doing. For example, these days, if you look at computer skills, that becomes a common skill. If you look at even mathematics and statistics, that is a tool which everybody will have to use today or tomorrow in case he's into at least a graduation level. Below that, he may escape. Then the tools like use of internet, use of say I would say the social media. Now, these are skills, you may integrate them into a broader skills like digital skills or speaking skills or skills which are required for the job or skills which are required for making himself or herself creative. All that can be branded and categorized. But then common thing is one set of skill is a common set of skill which you can identify and should be given throughout school till class 12. They all must be skilled till this point, and that can be discussed and designed. So these are common skills. Second is the specific skills for the jobs that they require. They do. Now, if there are say 12,000 jobs available, naturally there are so many types or levels of skills which are required. So those are the skills which are very specific to the job that may be given on the job training. Maybe say somebody who doesn't know how to speak should not choose a job where speaking is required. Now, this is where the problem lies. People choose a job and then decide what skill is required. The skill has to be identified and worked upon, improved, upgraded, related to the job one is choosing. So, if one has to be a teacher, he has to be a good speaker. He has to impress people while being in the class. He has to be methodical. He has to be well read. He has to be above the students and then do not get frustrated as well. He has to be matured. Now, these are personal skills, many a times it is called. Soft skills, those may be called. So, you can have categories, but then specific to the job, there are requirements. Third is one who is skilled and is going to really do research on developing those skills themselves. There is a limitedness of some skill, but there is a creativity aspect, innovation aspect, which is related to every skill. Now, if one is skilled to do actually a research on the skills that he is skilled in or other skills as well, well, that is the third level of skill. So, curriculum can be designed at the school level, the university or college level, and the other professional levels, possibly in this manner when you talk of skills. Details, of course, can be worked out and can be spelled out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And that was very interesting of the points you have actually laid out in your opening remark. I would now ask Dr. Isaac, in fact, Dr. Isaac, what are the innovations, in your opinion, what are the innovations that have become the key role players in secondary education for skill development?
Thank you, um, Ms. Manjul and the team, Elets and the Digital Learning for arranging this wonderful World Education Summit. And we are discussing on skills. That is one of the things, because when you talk about education, we talk about knowledge and the skills. And we have opened up the discussion, which you said that Professor Rao has started probably with the discussion on the employability. The way back in 10 years back, I think it was aspiring minds of somebody who has done a survey and said only 15% are employable. I was searching some report in which there's a skill report which has come recently in 2022, probably by the VBox. They say that now the percentage has gone to 50%. So we have improved in the quality of education as far as the skill set is concerned, from 15% to 50%, 50. So that's a good thing, which shows that the quality of education has improved. See, when you talk about this skill set requirement in the secondary education, if you look at the national education policy, you will find that one of the drawbacks of our education is that we have not given enough emphasis on the vocational education, which has been limited to the 11th and the 12th standard or 12th grade students. So now the point is that we have got to start this in the school education level. Basically, we would like to see that every student who is undergoing an education to the university level, he should be proficient in one vocation. That's the whole idea. The whole idea is that we should have something which everybody should be able to do it by hand. That kind of skill everybody should have. It's not that the engineering education, if you take the BTech, that's going to be, I mean, the engineering education, the undergraduate program is going to be the leading ones in providing the knowledge as well as the skill set. But at the same time, any university education level, one should be proficient in one vocation. So that is kind of skill set which will make a person to be skilled. See, when you talk about today's scenario, you will find that we are in a digital era. Apart from the communication skills, the 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 numerical ability, the teamwork, all these are basically the skill sets which are required by which are required to all, which will ultimately will have to make a person to be critically thinking, innovative in his mind. So for all this to happen, to be a person to be critical, to have critical thinking, he should be able I mean, he should have exhibit skills, and that will be directly, it will be related to the skill set which he has. So naturally one should uh, the integration of, I mean, the problem here is that vocational education is considered to be something which is inferior. Now the whole idea should be in the secondary education or in the school education level itself, that we should try to integrate vocational education with the secondary education, so that the vocational education becomes Am I audible?
Dr. Isaac, your voice was yeah, your voice was cracking, so we could not hear the last part of your statement, sir. If you can just repeat.
No, I think he seems to be having some technical problem.
Yeah, I think. And Dr. Isaac,
Yeah,
can you
now it's
repeat
okay.
what you said at the end, sir? Yeah, perfectly fine, sir. We lost your audio actually.
What I said is that integrate the vocational education to the with the higher education. Which, starting from the school level, we have got to imbibe the character of vocational education into our stream, so that the skill set that will really enhance the skill set. Apart from what we talk, the skill sets normally required for anybody is the communication skills, the teamwork, the adaptability skills, and things like that. In addition to that, we should also be teaching them to be responsible citizens. The ethics will become part of it. All these are skill sets which are required. Apart from, I mean, in addition to this, one vocation. That's what I said. One vocation, maybe whatever you want to say. But today, if you look at the whole scenario of digital era, you will find that what you require is skills in data analytics, or you may require in artificial intelligence. I mean, any digital. I mean, digital literacy is something which is a minimum requirement for a student to undergo a university education in the country, and that will enhance the skill set and make a person to be a really employable one with good skills. So So what has been told is that from 15% to 50% enhancement, probably we can bring that employability figure from 50% to 75% in another 2 or 3 years if we focus on the integration of vocational education also into the mainstream education.
Thank you, Dr. Isaac. That was really interesting. In fact, the point you put about digital education. And now coming to Professor Chatar Singh. Professor Singh, if you can just share your views about what are the challenges that are being posed in making the curriculums industry ready to increase employability of the students.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I asked her that what are the challenges according to you, what are the challenges in making the curriculums industry ready to increase the employability of the students?
The first and foremost thing, thank you very much for inviting me to this session. And I have heard Dr. Rao and Dr. Raman Jha earlier interacted with him. My basic question is now that when we think of inclusive and sustainable development and skill development, my basic question will be and is that for school education, which skill is required to take a student to a particular direction? Is there any test the NEP or Ministry of Education has developed for skill orientation test? We have all the skill development in secondary and higher education. We think of that and we talk of that. But from school days, a student's orientation should be gauged and tested which area he or she wants to acquire in future. So inclusive development of skills should be done, tested, and orientation should be done so that a student is harnessed into a particular skill since childhood. Number two, when we talk of skill, I think rural students have different skills, as Dr. Rao has mentioned that skill development, digital development, and all that is going on in urban areas and semi-urban areas. But in rural sector, the skill development should be of different type. Skill development, as he has mentioned, that laborers were going from cities to villages and from villages again to cities, but they couldn't get any employment in villages and later on in urban areas too. So they are only laborers, they are not skilled workers. The skills that they are employing and they are practicing is that of carpentry, masonry, and blacksmith, welding, all that. Do we have any skill development of this sort in village areas, or we have schools or some institutions that can enhance their skill in the rural areas itself? So this, I think, is the great gap that we have in our system of education and also in skill development program, that we do not have separate programs for urban areas and rural areas in the schools. This is my one point. Second point is, when we plan what is skill development and for whom, it cannot be inclusive. I'm sorry to say, it cannot be inclusive because our requirement, our needs, our system of education, our social, economic problems or conditions are totally different. We have some separate section of society in metro areas, city areas, and differently we have in village areas. So there should be separate programs of skill development for these, at least two programs for urban and rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, I can recall that you were talking about the gaps in the curriculum, especially for the urban and the rural areas. And now my question is to Dr. K. N. Subramania. Since we are talking about the gaps, sir, do you think that the national skill development policy can be a effective change maker in bridging this urban rural gap?
Good evening to all of you. So let me first of all thank for giving us this opportunity, and so I think discussion is going in the right direction, and we need lot of solutions for what are the topic which has been given. So, in fact, I went through the national skill framework, whatever has been already put as a draft in the UGC website, and it is going to be finalized now. They have done different levels of the skill development, whatever has to be done from 0 level to 10 levels, which may go up to PhD. It is there in that, and the kind of skills which are needed at different points of time. So here what happens is one is a skill, but let me also tell you that many times we talk about traditional skills, whatever is needed. But today, the kind of technology which is changing, at least in the semi-urban and the urban areas where the jobs are available for the students, it is called as Moore's law. 18 every 18 months the technology used to change, but today I was talking to somebody, he was telling that every 6 months you see a change in lot of technologies. So in fact the kind of the knowledge which is getting developed and the kind of skill people have to learn, in fact we have to run for developing the skill today. Because let us say a person has learned totally IC engines skills for so long, which was there in the market, and suddenly somebody asks for a e-mobility skills today, which is entirely different. Even though some of the fundamental things will remain the same. So the kind of skills which is needed for a robotics and IoT, then the IT areas is entirely different, and we find that this gap is widening because fundamentally the kind of thing you need for a skill development would be the resource and the infrastructure. I don't know by and large in how many places we have provided the resources for developing the skills, for which, of course, you can try to engage with the industry and the institution. That is one solution. But as an institution, we also should have a lot of equipments. We have to invest a lot of money, and the most important is the faculty development and the faculty adaptation to new things is very very important. So well, there is an opportunity in all these areas to develop the skills, but there is also a gap because many of us have been brought through a traditional education system, and how do you develop this gap of knowledge and skill is very very important. But national framework has given a beautiful framework, but implementation is very very important, for which the infrastructure, the faculty enhancement in the knowledge, and the industry collaboration should be very strong in order to develop the skills. I think that is my opening remark on the topic.
Perfectly fine, sir. That was very wonderful. In fact, a very pertinent opening remark. And now coming back to Professor O.R.S. Rao, Dr. Rao, when we talk about skill development and when we talk about the curriculums, how far do you think that our curriculums are actually, have been created in a way, and how far do you think that there is a very strong need for the industry to step in to create this, yeah, recreate these curriculums to make them industry ready?
That's a very good question from your side. See, talking of the employment, uh, we have been seeing in the last few years the definition of a job, definition of employment, they have been undergoing major changes. My father, he worked in one type of a job and one organization. I changed maybe something like 4 or 5 jobs. My complexion of job changed. Initially, I worked in the IT industry, then I moved into the academics. But today, what's happening is the roles are undergoing, changes because of because the industry is forced to get into that. Because the technological changes, like while the kind of industry 4.0 has come, then naturally all the jobs are undergoing changes. So as per the WF study, they're saying that something like more than 34% of the jobs today what they are, they may not exist after 5 years. So here the challenge for the education is, on one hand, we are talking of a moving target. The technologies are changing, industries are changing, roles are changing. the type of employment is changing. Before COVID, at least in India, most of us in the organized sector used to have employees working from sort of a morning to evening. Come COVID-19, what has happened was, a lot of people are forced to work from home. Today, what has happened is, like the COVID is over. Today, service industries like IT, they are happy with that arrangement. They would like to continue that, and they would like to continue for a few months or years because it is comfortable for both of them. Yet another type of jobs that are coming up. What has been happening is earlier we used to do the jobs as per the requirement of the company. Today, now we talk of what is called the gig economy. You've got gig workers. Gig workers, there are different types. They could be part-time workers, they can be freelance workers, flexi workers, various types of jobs that are there. Somebody may do one type of a job today. If we take, some of the ladies early in the morning, they go to FM radio and do some kind of program there. After that, they do some household work. They may do some teaching. Then after that, do something else. So with the result, the kind of the roles and jobs that are undergoing changes. In fact, today, the kind of percentage of gig workers in India, it is expected to be roughly about 18%. Today, in fact, if you take the Ubers of the world and you take urban ladders of the world, and like for that matter, Byju's today, they are creating so many gig workers. All the gig workers, considering that the jobs are changing, jobs will undergo changes, they must be able to upgrade their skills. Coming into as far as education is concerned, education, like in fact, we got a framework. Education, there's a specific time frame in which we offer the degrees or diplomas or post graduation into that. Into that, we can do certain things. In fact, as Dr. Raman Jha has mentioned, there's certain minimal common skills definitely we need to embed. Typically what I would like to call them as the life skills. Ultimately, somebody works, after that he has to live a life. To live a life, we need to impart them the life skills. These life skills you got to embed in the students, right from the secondary school, they must be sort of, must keep on sustaining it through the higher education. This includes the character building and life skills. That is something we got to put into that. Working in teams and this kind of a thing. The other important thing is considering the jobs are changing. I think somebody must know on how to live with a job and new things into that. That is where everybody must know on how to unlearn and relearn. That is what we call it as a lifelong learning. So I think as a part of the higher education, we need to train them and groom them that, my dear friends, that you completed BTech or you completed MBA, that's not the end of the road. We must prepare them mentally, physically, so that they must be prepared to learn lifetime. Every day they have to kind of improve themselves, impart more and more skills into them. Another thing that is coming up is as a part of the life skills is today lots of pressure is there on the jobs, starting with the students up into that, because every day the race is there. IIT race, IIM race, all the competitive exams into that. Today, for the youngsters, stress management is becoming very, very important. But unfortunately, what happens is nobody teaches them. They face the kind of pressure. We've been seeing, suicides. In fact, I come from IIT. In our days, it never used to happen. Today, what's happening is sort of somebody with all the fanfare, spending all the money in quota. He goes to IIT. He's unable to kind of withstand pressure. We see people committing suicides. So, in my view, I think as a part of our education system, we need to prepare them not only for a profession, we got to prepare them for a life, so that a life that is changing every day and how to withstand the life and live a life with happiness. Sort of these are my few words.
That was very interesting, sir, what you said, that it's very important to understand that the students actually need to get out of that stress thing and live their life with happiness, because yes, we understand that there's a lot of stress on the students to be in the top. There's a race, there's a constant race which they have to run to be in the top. And continuing with this only, I would like to ask Dr. Raman Kumar Jha. Dr. Jha, do you think that it is very important to include subjects like mental health and stress management in the curriculum, especially when we are talking about skill development and enhancement?
You're
So
muted.
yeah, sir, you are on mute.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you very
fine.
much. I said, let me begin little differently, and then ultimately I'll end at your question and answer that. We were working to evolve and work on an integrated model. Actually, that is the basic topic also that you had, and incidentally, I have been working on it for last almost 5 years, I would say. And I wrote a book which talks about higher education and developing an integrated model of education, wherein I just I'll like to highlight there are 9 points that I have put there. Very briefly, I'll talk. First was the early capability identification and lifelong learning, something that I think Chatar Singh sir was
Uh,
talking about. Do we have a testing mechanism in class 10 level or school level to identify which area of career should he choose? Ultimately, what should he study where he can do his best? So this capability identification has to be done early in life. This was one aspect which will automatically integrate the whole educational system, and everybody would love to study for life because he would then be doing something which he loves to do. So there will not be any work, only enjoyment. Second aspect was integrated industry linked curriculum. The moment you integrate the industry requirements into the curricula itself, there will be an interest generated in the industry that yes, the academia is going to help them in this particular manner. Let them give us their curricula, and we can easily integrate that into this. Second, third was employability perception study and research. Now, what do we perceive the job as? Is it a time pass? Is it a way to earn money? Is it a way to spend our life enjoying because of this particular job? Or is there any commitment related to the job that you have done to the employer? Now, this is psychology here. So, how do people perceive their job? Once you become an IS officer, you're not bothered that you're going to be tested. You do anything and everything. If there is a
right.
test available, possibly, I'm not only talking about IS officer, even vice chancellors. They feel that they are intelligent, they are talented, and they would sell through everything, or they hide things, they highlight certain things which are important to them. All this is a psychological makeup. The fourth point, the skill exploration research. There is hardly any research on the skill area per se. There is a framework, but what skill and how that dynamically can be improved upon, which I touched on the first part also. The fifth part was evaluation and assessment. No matter what one does, no matter one whether fails or succeeds, it all depends on how you are evaluating. Today online education system has made everybody score 90%. So the whole evaluation system will give you a result and a report card of a student. So if you're not strict about the evaluation system and assessment, you don't think about the model of higher education, which can be good ultimately. The sixth point was learning pedagogy and open windows. What are the open windows? Or I called in my book that as career path. What are the options available for any individual who gets on to one particular area? I've divided the whole career into just 12 parts. One has to choose one, and he will have 1,000 options for a job. So the pedagogy then is what are the skills required in that area to excel is to be part and parcel of the learning pedagogy, and people will have to do that and keep advancing in that particular area the way it is being dictated by market or the advancement and whatever technology, etc. The seventh aspect was extended arm of organization. The university per se should be an arm which should guide everybody around that area. We should be taken up as an extended arm of all organizations. Every small organizations needs help, support, academic support, but they don't come to the university for support. They hire somebody who may not be educated. Let the university take up this responsibility to extend the arm to help people all around so that they come to that level of acumen, and then naturally they will excel and perform. The eighth point was specialized purpose schools. There are very less number of specialized purpose schools. Suppose you want to make somebody as an army personnel, so there are army based schools. Like I come from Sainik school, so we were prepared as Sainiks. So there is a framework or mindset. One can be prepared for, say, only IS. One school can possibly set up their own skill sets for making astronauts or no, space researchers, things like that. So that was another thing. And the last point is that you have to prepare workforce for the career options. If we know that in a particular village, in a particular district, in a particular state, there are, say, 15% of people interested in this part of career, and if you allow them to choose right at the school level, and there is a test pattern that we also develop, which is still to be tested in the lab, that they choose this part of the career, then they are to be given the type of jobs related to their career, and only that much of job requirement will be there in that area. So there can be a proper demographic planning if you actually adopt this particular model. And obviously now I come to your point. If this is nothing but psychological mind setting of every individual right from childhood. First point was early childhood capability identification. So if you identify that and try to focus them in that particular area from childhood till he is alive, let him keep learning throughout his life. He will be the expert and he will live the life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. In fact, these are very interesting points you put across, talking about specialized schools and specialized level of education at a very early level. In fact, continuing with this point, I would like to ask Professor Isaac, sir, do you think that the intervention of industry to create scalable, curriculum should begin at a very early stage instead of getting it at a very later stage, like at a higher education stage? Do you think that that adaptation, that blending, that collaboration of the industry and the academia should begin at a very early stage?
Yeah. See, actually, the skill uh, acquisition, that is, somebody to acquire the skills, should start at an early stage, is what my feeling. See, I belong to the state of Kerala. We had a system of junior technical schools, that is specialized schools, which we had. Even now we have it, but now they are moving into the general education level. But whatever it is, this school started with the vocation, the imparting vocational education right from the fifth standard. So early education is always good. I take a different example. I mean, our economy is basically agriculture, and that is the field where we have a large number of employees.
So we lost your voice, Professor Isaac. I think there was some technical issue.
Yeah, I think there was an
Yes, sir.
interruption. Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir. Yeah.
see, what happens is that today I was just talking about agriculture. See, today, should we continue with the?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So please continue, sir. Your voice is again, we've lost your voice again.
The technology machinery has to be so that the the skill set which is required for people who are working in the agriculture field. See, today we want machine operators. We want people to operate the machines in the field. We want people to operate the drones to do the surveillance. We want the drones to spray the insecticides, pesticides, maneuvering, all this. So technology will play. So how do we make our uh, education? I mean, this is the point which I was trying to tell is that from starting from the school education level to the secondary or whatever it is, to the university level, every person should be made conversant with at least one vocation, and that will help him to develop further, and use of machinery, use of technology, all this will happen. See, otherwise, I mean, tomorrow, I think I have a feeling that tomorrow the agriculture field will be managed, and not managed alone. It will be actually done by an agricultural engineer or an agricultural scientist. He will be doing the whole job, and not I mean, we may be replacing the manual laborers in that context. So that is a kind of skill set that has to go into the level of our education, whether it's in the uh, school education level or in the higher education level. See, this is what I said. There should not be, the problem is today is that vocational education is considered as a I mean, it's not a dignity of labor is always there. So how do you take away that? I mean, that is one part of the discussion. And see, this is one part, the vocational education part. Then the skill set part is another one. So we have to actually integrate the whole thing, wherein more and more skill set have to be given to the education component. See, this skill set can be given through uh, two things. One is the attachment to the industry. When I talk about the industry attachment, the agriculture field also will become in the attachment for the students to learn it, because they use a lot of machinery today. All agricultural areas we are using it. See, if you take even the fishermen who goes to the sea and do the fishing, they also make use of a lot of technology. So how do we make the whole lot of people, I mean, technology savvy, and then use of skills? See, if you take the example, if you will find that in India, still we have only 5% of the people who are getting vocational education, whereas this number is almost like 90 plus in Korea, 50% and more in US. Germany may be about 70%. So that is a level where we have got to reach in terms of skill set, rather than a rote learning which we are following. And I think the national education policy has given clear directions of how we have to transform the whole education system, the teaching learning process, and how we should integrate the vocational education with the mainstream education, and make use of the digital technologies. And these technologies are going to be changing every day. See, it's something which you have to do. Today I learned something, tomorrow I have to learn and do it. But the way you are making a person to make that adaptability is something which has to be brought in the education system, and that can happen through a different kind of a pedagogical approach, whether it's in the school level or whether it's in the higher education level. We have to bring in that kind of a change, and that change in the pedagogy will bring in every person to be, as I said earlier, also to make it creativity. Like, see, we talk about project based learning. What is the project based learning? It is something which you have to do it by hand. Every person has to do it by hand, and that is a kind of skill set which we have to bring in, and that will help to make every student undergoing, whether it's the school education, vocational education, or university education, all will get equipped with some kind of skills in addition to the normal. This is something which we have to understand. When we talk about the component of education, knowledge and skills, we talk about skills like soft skills like communication, teamwork, and things like that, and the domain knowledge skills. So all this will have to be seen in different perspectives at that level, and that will help in bringing more skill set infused into the children, so that will help in development of the economy of the country.
That was interesting, sir. In fact, you raised a very good point about what is required for the development of the economy of the country. Coming to Dr. K. Subramania now. Dr. Subramania, what do you think? Like, how can, what like if we talk about adaptation of technology and creating industry-ready curriculums, what do you like? What is the academia's expectations from the government in terms of support and collaboration? If we are planning about if we are talking about industry ready curriculums.
Okay, so point number one is maybe it may be very difficult to expect everything to happen from the government. So maybe we have to do with a public-private partnership, a private-private partnership, then partnership with industry and the education institutions, and education institutions to education institution. So I think if we can do this model, maybe whatever the drawbacks we have in one place, it could be done in a better way. I can give you some examples. Like say, there may be certain resources which are repetitive in the institutions which are very nearby. In fact, in England, there are three universities which are very close by. What they do is, if you are studying physics, chemistry, mathematics, and instead of repeating all physics in all the universities, chemistry labs in all the universities, what they do is, in one university they have all the resources for physics lab, in the other university they have for chemistry lab, and the students are made to move around that place. So resource optimization utilization among the institutions would be very much helpful uh, in terms of because what happens now is, you have more equipments to learn better skills rather than the scarcity of the equipments for learning the skills. So the next point could be, of course, the government has been doing the policy framework similar to the national education policy, the skill framework, and other things. But I feel the implementation has to happen at the ground level, and government can also help in terms of giving some good funding for all the institutions wherever there is a merit, so that the resources could be built. And the most important thing, as many people are talking, the skill development to be done among the faculty members, the faculty sabbaticals, industry connects. If we do all those things, then we can talk about the technological skill development. Otherwise, per se, individually, the institutions cannot buy many of the resources wherever the skill has to be developed. So that is where it's not government alone. I think uh, the users of all our human resource is the industry. I think right time has come that industries should start investing back into the institutions, so that whatever the skill they expect from us, it could be imparted. Otherwise, there is always a blame game that industry says that your curriculum is not up to the mark, and we say that I don't have resource to do it. So instead of this blame game, we can have a symbiosis and the collaboration between the government, the industry, and the academia. Then the skill gaps could be definitely be taken care. These are some of my thoughts.
Thank you, sir. And I totally relate with your thoughts about the skill set. And that really brings us to the towards the end of this discussion. In fact, I would like to have some closing remarks from all our panelists here, beginning with Dr. Chatar Singh. So, can I have your closing remark on this panel discussion which we had today, and about curriculum development and skill enhancement?
Thank you, ma'am. I strongly believe that whatever have been said by Professor Raman and Professor Isaac, many points by others too, that should be taken care of, and the start should be from the schools. If we have skill orientation testing at the school level, and if it is lifelong learning process, not like that bureaucrats that one can be jack of all trades, but it could be specialized by any student, any youth, from childhood to old. Second is that by Professor Subramanian, that the government or the PPT program is something that can be implemented. But may I suggest that if the union government is providing research grant to only 5 states of the country, not to others, and that too mostly to the government institutions, then what will happen to other institutions, other universities? That is a big point to be pondered over. And one thing more, if the government institutions which are getting huge grants from the many organs of the government, central government, can they share that with the private universities or deemed universities? That should also be talked about, because all that funding has gone to government institutions, research centers, and not a single penny is going to the private organizations, private universities, and deemed universities. So that should also be shared. Very nicely, it was pointed out by Subramanian that private industry, private universities can collaborate. But similarly, he said that it is uh, game of passing bucks. We don't have good researchers, but at least we have good teachers. A teacher cannot be a good researcher, and a researcher is not necessary to be a good teacher. So that categorization should be done for all those institutions which are focusing on research. That should be left to them to do research, but the research should be collaborated or uh, should percolate to other institutions also, so that those are also benefited. And very nicely it has been put that organizations, whether government or private, should also focus not only this digital education and other things which are coming recently, this block pesa or blockchain or Bitcoin and all that. So every moment it is passing. Very rightly, Dr. Rao mentioned that it is moving target that we have to hit. Every moment we are having new problems and we have to find new solutions. So skill shall have to be in a progressive manner and it cannot be static. So similarly, we shall have to plan our curriculum that it cannot stay more than 1 year, because next moment the skill required is different. So we shall have to move on. And I think every 6 months we shall have to have new curriculum. And very rightly suggested by Dr. Raman that it should be done from the grassroots level. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. And can I have a closing remark from Professor O.R.S. Rao also now?
Thank you very much. Uh, in my view, in fact, you asked a question as to what should government do. In my view, I think see so far the successive governments and particularly the current government, with regard to the skill development, there have been a lot of initiatives that were launched. But at the same time, every initiative, it has come to some level and it could not, meet the objectives. My suggestion is, I think, the government has to come with something called a national skill mission. It has to be done in a mission mode. Unless we do that, we will not be able to reap the so-called the demographic dividend. For quite some time, when we coined this word BRICS, we have been talking about the demographic dividend. If you handle it well, it will become a dividend. Otherwise, it will become a demographic, liability. So this is something I think we have to keep in mind. So very recently, also the World Bank has come out with a study. What they said was, as far as India is concerned, they talked of the skill gap. They talked of something like in the next 5 years, they said India has to train not less than 30 million youth. They said on various skills. But to train on what? To train on what? Today, what is happening is it is all totally disparate. We have got sort of a skill development corporation, so many initiatives that are there. Perhaps all of them must come under one kind of umbrella. In between that was more, but again it has gone back. As a part of this mission has to be a collaborative mission wherein the education and industry must be brought together. because in fact some of the our panelists also have talked of sort of all of us talk of there's need for collaboration, but at the same time sort of every one of us have our own issues. Industry is busy kind of chasing their own problems and issues. We have got our own issues. I think the facilitative body to bring them together is government. And government, in my view, what they may have to do is they may have to rope in the various industry associations. We've got various industry associations that are there, starting with automotives, going up to banking. They have to bring them together. They have to come with some kind of a roadmap. To start with, at least they should say, look at something like a perspective plan, let's say for the next 10 years. Next 10 years, we believe that, okay, sort of this is how the economy is going to move. And this is going to be the contribution of various sectors for the economy. To contribute this kind of economy for this share into this is the resource what you require, manpower resource. Money you can get, you can borrow from somewhere, but skills and manpower resource, you have to develop into that. So this being the case, they have to say, these are the kind of manpower resources we need in this kind of a sectors and this kind of skill mapping we have to do. Just to give an example, the edtech has been of a recent phenomenon in the last about 2 to 3 years, and with the COVID, it has going by leaps and bounds. Today, the India is the edtech capital of the world, just as it has been into the IT and ITS. But the edtech, their requirements with regard to people are totally different, because edtech companies, they have come to our campus. They are looking for technical writers. They want BTech students to write some course material that can be done only by BTech. But whereas our BTechs, they are very good in calculations and they can do designs, but writing, technical writing, they are not so good at. That's what Baizu wants, that's what extra marks want. Like this, there are several kind of sunrise sectors that are coming up, whether it's a fintech that is coming up, all these sectors, the kind of resources what they need are totally different. This is something the government has to consolidate along with the industry association, map it, then say that, yes, I think industry, this is what you got to contribute. What you contribute is not money, your ideas. What is the profile of people you are looking for? Where do you find the gaps? And how do you think we can fill the gaps into that? Then that's when the education will come in. Education, then clearly this is what we want. Today, what's happening is only when an employer comes, every employer his requirements are different, and we find that ultimately they say, not for me. So that's the kind of a game that goes on today, including the premier institutions into that. So when once you do this kind of a perspective plan, a 10-year plan, it may not be so kind of a clear. At least a 5-year kind of a plan must be there. That is because sort of industry can ask for any skill what they want today. But as far the education is concerned, for education for a graduate to come out, it will take anywhere between 2 to 4 years. A 2 years if it is a postgraduate program, a 3 years for an undergraduate program, a 4 years for a kind of BTech program. And unless I know now what kind of a product I want after 4 years when the product comes, industry says, no, this is not what I want. So this is where I think a long-term planning is required as far as the skill kind of a mission is concerned. And when once you do that, then after that, as far the NEP is concerned, it has got some of those elements in the NEP. In the NEP 2020, there's a beautiful point with regard to the National Education Technology Forum. The COVID has taught us that, with regard to the pedagogy, technology can be leveraged to scale up the education and training. That is something we should not forget. COVID has gone away, but the learnings I think we should take forward. That is where technology can be a game changer, so that we can scale up this thing into that. Only one more point I want to add is, I know that time is running up. So far, we have been talking of the education and the students. What kind of a skill building we do that? Let's all understand. These students whom are kind of graduating into that, they may be constituting hardly about 20-30% of the total population. There's a 70% of the population, some of them, let's say they are not graduates, they haven't gone for a formal schooling. There are so many ladies that are there. Today, the ladies' contribution today is, the workforce in India is 24%. Out of the 24%, bulk of it is from the IT industry and the media. The rest of them is not into that, and a little bit into this thing in form. So there, whenever you talk of something like inclusiveness starts at a demographic level. That is something like metros, towns, and urban and village. Then it has to be the gender level. It has to be kind of a ladies and men. And then we have got sort of, then we have got aged people. Today, what's happening is people retire at the age of 60 and they live after that another 10 years, 15 years. Sort of a, can you not use them as a productive force? So to that extent, I think this national kind of, skill mission policy, it has to cater for, on one hand, the demand wise, what kinds of jobs that are there in the industry or the gig economy. Gig economy is going to be huge, let me tell you. In US, 56% of the kind of workforce is gig workforce, whereas in India today we say 20s into that. And if it is going to become 50%, sort of we don't have a workforce and we haven't planned for that into that. Likewise, we have to create entrepreneurs. Today, all of us are saying that campus placements. Sort of this is something that over a period of time, every one of us must take pride in saying that how many entrepreneurs I created from my batch into that. I think these are certain things I think as a part of the national mission, they have to do that. Today, in fact, we have to make them happen. Apart from the policy, ultimately the proof of the pudding is, in terms of implementation. That's where we need to have monitoring mechanisms and ensure that whatever be the targets that are sort of identified, those targets we should be able to achieve and take mid-course corrections. So that's all what I have to say. I know that, I want to say a lot of things, but the time is a constraint. But this is something close to my heart, close to the heart of all of us. Ultimately, I think, we should make them happen more than talking.
Perfect, sir.
We
Perfect,
should
sir. In fact, I totally agree with your point that at the end of the day, it's more important to make things happen. But then
yeah,
it's also important to have such discussions where we can, talk about
absolutely.
what are the most important points that need to be worked upon. And
Great.
we are running out of time. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to all our panelists for being a part of this very, very interesting discussion. And I would ask my backend team to please present the token of gratitude certificates for all our speakers. Thank you, Dr. Chatar
Thank you
Singh.
very much.
This is a speaker
Thank
certificate for
you.
you. And thank you, sir, for being a part of this event and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much, sir. It was wonderful hearing your words.
Congress,
Thank you,
Dr.
Professor
Rao.
ORS Rao. It has been a wonderful session with you, sir. It's really
Thank you.
wonderful listening to your words. Your points were very, very pertinent. In fact, I think we all can give a clap to all our panelists because the topic was really, really wonderful. At the end of the day, it was a very energetic topic. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Raman Kumar Jha. In fact, a round of applause for all the panelists. Thank you, Dr. Raman Kumar Jha. Your words were also very, very important, sir. In fact, the panel was, in fact, I've been watching all the panels since morning, and this was, in fact, the most, updated and the most exciting panel of all. One for Dr. KP Isaac. Thank you so much, sir, for being present here.
Isaac.
And one certificate for Dr. K.N. Subramania. Thank you so much, Dr. Subramania, for being a part of this event and for being a part of this panel discussion. I
Thank
would
you.
like to thank all our panelists for being a part today and for being a part and sharing their thoughts on such an important topic because we all understand that skill development is, of course, a very, very important topic. Have a great day, sir. It's a pleasure having you all with us today. We have 2 more days to go. If you want, you can be a part of the delegate discussions as delegates. Thank you so much and have a great evening. Thank you, sir.
No,
Thank
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 you.
you
you
very
Thank you
much.
very
Thank
much.
you all.
very much, and thanks all the
Thank you, sir.
panelists.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Wish
much,
you
sir.
great day.
Thank you.
Wish you great luck, all of you.
Thank you.